Welcome to RC Tech. This is Ritesh Srinivasan. In this video, I will demonstrate how you can implement text classification using a convolution neural network in TensorFlow 2.1 using Python. I am specifically training a simple convolution neural network for a text classification model to classify sentiment of tweets. I'll be using the TensorFlow GPU version. The link for the GitHub code repository is shared in the description of the video. If you like such content and are new here, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Let us look at how we can implement text classification with TensorFlow. TensorFlow is an end-to-end open source platform for machine learning. The dataset is from the tweet extraction challenge from Kaggle. We would implement text classification using a simple convolution neural network developed using TensorFlow on tweet data to classify tweets as positive, negative, or neutral. Let us look at how the trained data looks like. So here you have four columns in total. We have the text ID, the text, the selected text, and the sentiment. I will not be looking at selected text because we are just looking at text classification over here. So the idea is that given text like this, for example, this is a tweet, given tweets like this, right, and their sentiments, right, in training data, we would like to classify new tweets as belonging to either of these categories. Now let us look at our test data. Again, we have three columns over here, the text ID, the text, which is the tweet text, and the sentiment. So basically, we are actually now trying to predict this sentiment for this particular tweet. For example, if the tweet is this, it is a positive tweet. So we should be able to predict, given this tweet on a trained model, we should be able to predict that it is a positive tweet. Let us start by importing the necessary libraries. So we will import TensorFlow. We will import TensorFlow.keras for layers, losses, which I'll be explaining later. You also have regularizers. You have matplotlib for certain plots. Then you have sklearn, scikit-learn packages for the train, test, split, and some other utility functions. We also use the TensorFlow.keras preprocessing.txt classes over here. One is the tokenizer, another one is the pad sequences. I'll be explaining about these classes later. The version of TensorFlow is 2.1.0 and I have a GPU installed, so I have the GPU version being used over here. Now let us define some methods to pre-process the tweets. So we have remove emoji method to remove if any emoji is present in the text. We have remove URL for removing URL patterns or URLs present in the string. We have clean text, which is a function for removing the punctuations, also for cleaning the text. Okay, now let us pre-process the data. So we read the data over here. We have our train.csv and test.csv. We remove those sentences which have words less than 2. Then what we do is that we clean the text by applying our pre-processing functions. Then let us look at what is the length of the maximum sentence in what do you call the maximum number of words in a sentence in the train data as well as the test data. So if you look at our data, in our train data we have close to 10,000 neutral tweets, close to 8,000 positive tweets, and close to 7,600 negative tweets for a total of 26,752 tweets. In our test data, we have close to 1,300 neutral tweets, 1,075 positive tweets, 983 negative tweets for a total of 3,434 tweets. Now, the maximum sentence length in terms of words is 33 for the train data, and for the test data, we have the sentence with the highest length was 32 words, right? This is important and we will use this for computing the sequence length later. Let us split the training data into train and validation dataset. let us convert our training, validation, and test data into the format accepted by TensorFlow. For pre-processing the text, I will be using the tokenizer class from TensorFlow keras preprocessing.txt. This tokenizer class allows us to vectorize a text corpus by turning each text into either a sequence of integers or into a vector. If it is integer, each integer is nothing but the index of a token in the vocabulary dictionary. Okay. So here I consider close to 20,000 top 20,000 words, and I then create an instantiation of a tokenizer class, and for each word which may be out of vocabulary, I use this out of vocabulary token as unknown. Okay, then I call this fit on text method, and I pass the training data. Okay, so once this tokenizer class fits or creates this vocabulary dictionary on this text, now let us use that to convert text to sequences. For example, if I have a text like this, XYZ, how are you? And I convert it into a sequence, the output is a sequence of indexes. And if you see over here, XYZ is out of vocabulary word over here, and hence the index is 1, and then you have different indexes for the different words. So this is how we convert a text to a sequence. Okay, now let us look at our data split. Basically, we split the training data into trained data and a validation data. Okay, so how I do is that I use the train test split from scikit-learn, and because the classes are imbalanced, I call stratify, and I want the validations set to be small. So 90% of the training data is your trained data set, and 1% is your validation data set. So I have done the data split. I will also show the distribution of the data split as well. Now I convert our text present in the train, validation, and the test data set into sequences as shown before. Now what happens is that when you do this, you get different length sequences because you have different word length sentences in your data set. So I use max length is equal to 40 because we saw earlier that the longest sentence in terms of words was 33 in the training data, and in the test data it was 32. So I approximated to 40 words. So I create these train sequences by padding them to 40. So what happens by this padding process is every sentence now is of length 40, right? So if it is 5 words, then you have 5 indexes followed by zeros. The rest 35 values are zeros. Okay, so that is how I create padding, and post is that I after the words till this max length it will do the padding. Okay, so I created padded sequences for the train dataset, validation dataset, and test dataset. Now what I do is that if you look at our classes, class labels, they are text labels. We have the sentiment as positive, negative, and neutral. So I use this label encoder to convert the uh, text categories into labels first, into numbers basically. So what happens is that negative is 1, neutral is 2, and basically negative is actually 0, neutral is 1, and positive is 2. Okay, so you get the numbers, and then from the numbers I will convert it into categorical values. Okay, when I am converting it to categorical values, what happens is that negative becomes 100, neutral becomes 010, and positive becomes 001. Okay, so that is how the categories are converted. We'll look at that conversion process as well. So I have now created the labels also in a categorical form. Now I create TensorFlow datasets by concatenating our sequences and their respective labels. I create the train, validation, and test data set. Now, if we look at the distribution of our trained data, it has close to 24,766 sentences, out of which you have this class distribution present over here. Similarly, for the validation data, you have 2,676 sentences. Again, you have the class distribution. Now, let us look into the, if you print a sample of the trained data, a sequence, it looks like this. Now, let us look at how are we a little bit in detail of how we are transforming the labels basically, right? So we had categories: positive, positive, negative, neutral. So the first 10 instances is what I'm showing from the training data over here. So what happens is when we do this fit transform on the label encoder, you see that positive becomes 2, neutral becomes 1, and negative becomes 0. Then I use TensorFlow to categorical, and once when I do that, if you see, the value 2 becomes 001, so positive becomes 001, neutral becomes 010, and negative becomes 100. Okay, so this is how you do the conversion of the labels to categorical values. And what you would have done is that you would have actually used these labels and concatenated them over here. So I'm just explaining this pre-processing step over here. Okay, now let us print some values from the trained dataset, validation dataset, and test dataset to see how it looks. So after our pre-processing, it looks like this. So our trained dataset has two values. One is the tensor, which is of shape 40, which is our sequence, okay, which is our text sequence, which has indices followed by the value 0 for padding. Okay, so this is of shape 40, and then you have your label, which is a tensor of shape 3. Okay, so you have this value 001, which is means that it's a positive class. Okay, like this you have values for the trained data set. Similarly, you have values for the validation data set and test data set. So in this way, we have made our data ready for it to be trained using TensorFlow convolution neural network. Now let us create a simple convolution neural network model for classifying this text. We are using Keras, which is a high-level API, and it is inbuilt part of TensorFlow 2.0. I'll be using a Keras sequential model. To know more about the sequential model, you can visit this particular link. So to define the sequential model, you need a certain set of inputs. So our sequence length over here is 40. Each input is of 40 dimensions, basically. We have 40 indexes, right? Then I create a embedding layer to convert this index value to an embedding dimension to an embedding. So the embedding dimension is of size 64. So basically every index is represented by 64 dimensional vector. Okay, and the max features is equal to 20,000. We said we look at top 20,000 words. So I add a 1 for the out of vocabulary word. So totally we have. So the embedding layer, basically I instantiate a tf.keras.sequential model over here. And the first layer of the model is an embedding, which takes the input length is equal to sequence length, right? And the output is the embedding dimensions is 64 over here, and the maximum number of features or indices are actually 20,000 plus 1, so 20,001 over here. So that is the maximum possible index as input, the value of indexes, right, word indexes. So what this does is that it takes this input of sequence, basically sequence length 40, the 40 dimensional input, and for each input index present, the word index present, it creates a 64-bit embedding. Okay, what we do next is that we add our convolution neural network layer. So here we add a one-dimensional convolution neural network layer. Okay, so this is tf.keras.layers.convolution 1D. So I have 128 different convolution filters, and the kernel size is 3. The activation is ReLU, right? So when I'm saying the kernel size is 3 means in the sequence length of 40, I would look at 3 words at a time. Okay, then I would look at the next 3 words. I will explain about this convolution 1D later. So then I have a global max pooling layer. Then I have a dropout layer to reduce overfitting. Then I have a fully connected dense layer for the final classification. So here I have 3 neurons as for the output for the 3 classes, and the activation is sigmoid over here. If you look at this particular code over here, I have added regularizers for the embedding weights, for the kernel weights, for the bias weights. So what happens is that this prevents overfitting by the regularization process, and I am using L2 for L2 regularization for the L2 regularization for these weights. Okay, this kind of prevents the overfitting. So then I do model.summary, which prints out the model. And then since our classes are categorical in nature, the output classes, so I use the categorical cross entropy as the loss function to train our convolution neural network model. The optimizer is NADAM, and the metrics over here which we are interested in is categorical accuracy. Okay. Now let us look at how the model looks like. So there is this embedding layer after the input layer. So the embedding takes as the output of the embedding layer is your sequence of length 40, and for each of these 40, for each dimension, each value you have 64 bits as output. Okay, basically you have a 64 vectors, basically 64 dimensional vector as output. Then it is given as input to the convolution 1D layer. So the output of the convolution 1D layer is 128 filters we had, each gives a 38 dimensional value as output. Okay, then from this output we, for in each of these 38 dimensions, for each of these 128 filters, we take the max value. So you have 128 dimensions as output over here. So basically 128, an array of size 128 with values, okay, with max values from the previous step. Then we have the dropout layer, which is of the same size, and then we have our output layer. Okay. Now, how does this convolution 1D work? That is what I will try to explain with these diagrams over here. So if you have an input like this, okay, so we have 3 plus 3, 6 words over here. I am not showing the padding layers over here. The padding part, I am just showing the input part. Okay, so if you have an input like this, it is converted into indexes by our tokenizer. Okay, now this indexes is what is fed as input to our embedding layer. Okay, now for each of these indexes, you have, or indices, the value of these indices, you have a 64-bit output coming from the embedding layer. Okay, so if you have padding, then the next set of values will be 0 till 40. Similarly, the embeddings will be 0 till 40 over here. Okay, I'm not showing that over here. So now what we said is our 1D convolution, we said we have 128 filters and we have a kernel size of 3. So when we have a kernel size of 3, what it does is that it creates a weight matrix of 3 rows, right? Each row having a dimension of 64, it instantiates some random values for these weights. And then what is done is that convolution is applied on this embedding layer. So basically, first the weight matrix is multiplied with the first 3 words. Okay, then you get one value, right? Then the convolution is operation is performed on the next 3 words, because the stride over here is one word at a time. Okay, so the next 3 words are again a value is computed and put into the next what you call it, generates another value. Okay, so after this step, when again convolution what you call the convolution operation is performed on the next 3 words over here, and you get another value out of the convolution operation, and then it is done for the last 3 words, you get the another value over here. So like this, what happens is that you get values once the convolution operation is done for the first filter. Okay, so if you look at this thing, we get 4 values over here. So how do we get 4 values over here? Now you had 6 words, the convolution or the kernel size was 3 words at a time. So 6 minus 3 plus 1 is the number of outputs you get over here. So in our example, we had a sequence of length 40. Our kernel size was 3. So 40 minus 3 is 37 plus 1 is 38. So for every filter, we get 38 outputs like this. Okay, so when you apply 128 filters, you will get 128 into 38 outputs like this. Now, what do you do next? You do global max pooling. In global max pooling, what happens is that you, for every filter, you look at the outputs over here and you take the maximum value. So in our case, what would happen is that we have 128 filters, each filter having 38 outputs. From the 38 outputs, you will get 128 max values. Okay, so that is how you get this particular output over here. From these 128 values, you will again give it to a dropout layer, and during the training process, some of these outputs will be made 0 and then fed to the dense layer. Okay. So this is the definition of our neural network, a simple convolution neural network. Now we can also visualize this convolution neural network using the utils in Keras. You can plot the model and you can see it prints the same thing, that you have an input layer or where sequences are of length 40. Then what happens is that this question mark stands for the batch size. Then you give it same to the embedding, you get 40, basically a sequence where each value in the sequence is represented by 64 dimension embedding. Then you give that as input to our convolution 1D layer. So we get 128 cross 38 because we have 128 filters, and we get 38 outputs per filter. Now this you give it to the global max pooling and you get 128 values as output. That you give it to the dropout layer and then to the final classification layer. Okay. Now let's train our model. We will train it for 100 epoch. Epoch is nothing but the model is trained over all the mini batches and it has seen the entire data set for one iteration in one iteration. Okay, that is an epoch. So we'll be doing 100 such epochs over here. So we call the model.fit function. We pass the trained data set. We also shuffle it for every batch. We create mini batches of size 128, and we also pass the validation data to check what is the results of this model on the validation data. Again, the validation data batch size is also 128. So once we run this, the model starts learning. And if you look at the starting, what happens is that it trains for 189 steps and validates for 21 steps in every epoch. So 189 step into 128 will be your training data set size. 21 into 128 will be your validation data set size. Okay. So in the first epoch, you see that the categorical accuracy in the training data set is 0.47, whereas on the validation set it is 0.64. This can happen because the validation dataset may have simple examples comparing to the trained dataset. But the end of the 100th iteration, you see that, you will see that the categorical accuracy on the training dataset achieved is 74 and on the validation dataset is 0.7. Now you can get these values from the history variable which you have attached to the model. Basically over here you said history is equal to model. So what in this history variable is that it's a dictionary which stores your losses. Okay, so you can see the loss over here. So it has the category loss, it also has the accuracy on the training data set, it has the loss on the validation data set, and it also has loss on the, it has also the categorical accuracy in the validation data set. Now you can plot this losses as well as accuracy. First let us plot the loss. So I have plot the validation loss for the training data and as well as for the validation data. Basically the loss for training data and the loss for the validation data. Now if you look at this, you see that initially the validation loss of in the training data was from a high value it started decreasing. After some point of time you will see that it keeps decreasing in the training data but it doesn't decrease in the validation data. So there is some kind of still an overfitting present even though I have introduced regularizers, but it is still quite close over here. Now if you look at the accuracy as well over here, In the training data, you will see that the accuracy slowly increases and then goes somewhere close to 74%. In the validation data, it starts from 65% and gets saturated at around 71%. Okay, so this is how you can plot the accuracy values as well to see whether your model is overfitting, underfitting, and then based on that, you can take the necessary changes to your model. Okay. So now that the model has been developed, let us save the model. To save the model, we call model.save and we pass the path where the model has to be saved. In our case, we also need to save the tokenizer for later use, because we are using that as a pre-processing step. So for the tokenizer class, we have this toJSON method which stores whatever data is required for the tokenizer when it is used again, like the indices and the dictionaries, so the vocabulary dictionary. So that is stored in this JSON string. Then what we do is that we get the JSON string, and then what we do is that we store the JSON string also to the disk. So in this way, we have saved the model to the disk as well as our tokenizer. So now let us reload the model from the disk. So when we reload the model from the disk, we can see that we use the load model function and we pass the path of the model, right, where we have saved our CNN model. So we get the new model, and if you see the summary of the new model, it shows a similar what do you call architecture, because we have saved the model, but this is with the trained weights, right? Similarly, we can reload the tokenizer also by reading the JSON file and passing the JSON string and instantiate a tokenizer class. Now what we will do is we will create a test data set. What we do is that we call tokenizer text to sequences on our test data. We also pad the sequences to max len of 40, because that is what our model accepts as input. Then let us do predictions by calling new model.predict on these test sequences. And what we do over here is that for each of the predictions, we try to predict the maximum class. Basically, when you do predictions, you get something like this. The probability values for each of these classes. So 0 stands for negative, 1 stands for neutral, and then 2 stands for positive. Right? You get such probability values. When you do argmax axis of 1 over here, you find which is the class over here. So basically, which is the index. And then what you can do is that you can process, we attach these predict results as a column to our test data, the pred sentiment column, and then we replace these label values by their respective classes. For example, 0 is negative, 1 is neutral, and 2 is positive. And then we can use scikit-learn classification report, whereby we can pass the test data, the original ground truth, which is the test data sentiment, and the predicted sentiment to compute our confusion matrix and to compute metrics. So here also you see that when we compute our model accuracy, we get around 71% accuracy on our test data. Okay. So in this way, we can actually develop a simple TensorFlow based convolution neural network to classify text. If you like such content, please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe to the channel. Please also press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I am creating a new video. See you in the next video. Bye for now.